Hello everyone, thank you for joining the webinar today, and we're going to be talking about how to avoid claim denial and increase your revenue. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to talk about today. Our objectives of our time together today, we're going to talk about the different types of denials that we have in our offices, as well as how we can identify some denial trends. We're going to talk about how we can work these denials and how we can work them quickly. We're going to talk about determining whether an appeal is necessary or if we can just submit a corrected claim. This is a big part of dealing with your accounts receivable, so we're going to spend some time on that. We're also going to feel confident in our appeals processes and knowing from one payer to the next what our processes will be. And then we're going to talk about implementing some strategies into our offices to reduce some payer denials and how to watch for those, and some key players of in our offices of how we can get everybody on the same page and have everyone kind of in the loop of what we need to do. So let's first talk about the types of denials that we have within our offices. Let's talk a little bit more about these front-end edits. Moving on to our clearinghouse denials. These types of things are, again, eligibility coverage, but they're more definitive. EOB denial, so these are certainly not all of the kinds of denials you'll get, but the main denials that we see, obviously coverage and coordination of benefits. So let's talk about some physical examples of these denials and the exact denial codes here. Additional denial examples, CO96, a non-covered charge. We need to consult the plan benefit documents, make sure that there's no restrictions for this service. We can also contact the payer and see if there's any restrictions, and then we also need to ask if the patient can be billed for this. When you see a CO on the denial reason, that means contractual obligations, but it doesn't always mean you can't bill the patient. I have a ton of denials for the pre-authorization. Again, if you're unsure and you don't know, you can always reach out to the payer and ask them to walk you through how to find that coverage guideline. You can also appeal these to show medical necessity if you feel that there is medical necessity, but if there is some sort of a guideline and you're not within that, there's no real reason to appeal because you have to utilize services for covered appropriate diagnosis codes and reasons. Anytime we get a denial, no matter what, we always want to think of these 5 things. Does our documentation justify what we built? Well, I would hope that as a coder, before we even build it, we already looked at this, but that's always the first thing I recommend that anybody looks at. Also, were the appropriate modifiers there? Is there something that was possibly missing? Were our types of service and place of service codes correct? Was there any bundling that happened? So again, is there any modifiers we could have added that could have prevented this denial? And then also, are there any coverage guidelines that we could have possibly missed or maybe found that would have helped this denial be prevented? So what do we do if we have different kinds of denials? What do we need to do? Do we need to appeal them, or do we need to send a corrected claim? What is our next step? With your appeals, if we've got something that we need to appeal, what things we do not need to send is a copy of the insurance card. Our levels of appeal, so now we're to the part of our program that we're going to talk about patient financial agreement and good faith estimate. Medicare Appeals process, I'm not going to go into this in an enormous amount of detail, but there are levels of appeal with Medicare, first level, second level, 3, 4, and 5. On this slide, I wanted to give just a little bit of information as to the appeal time frames and when you need to work these denials. Strong appeal letter tips, be very direct and intentional with your first sentence. Before I leave you, a couple more additional tips for success. Today, I really enjoy speaking and happy to help with any billing questions you may have. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day, and again, reach out with any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants. So with this, we conclude the session for today. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Have a great day.